Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Prospering podcast. I am your host, Katie Oman, events director and all-around fabulous person of ProspHER. And I have another fabulous guest with me today to chat about their work and their focuses and everything we can get to know in this space of time. So I want to introduce you all to an amazing woman. I have the benefit of knowing her quite well. Please welcome Sarah Lloyd.
Yay! And the crowd goes wild. No. We've had our funny tablets today.
Oh no, you got to see it's Monday. I was recording this, so you got to do what you got to do, right? Absolutely.
Exactly.
Sarah is our Chief Communications Officer at ProspHER, but she's not just a one-trick pony. Oh, no. And we're going to get into this, but she is an absolute star when it comes to PR. Oh, I'm a poet. And she's got a whole other podcast, which I've been a guest on. So that's episodes coming out soon, which Shameless Stories, which I also want to talk about. But basically, she has lots of strings to the bow, so we have a lot to talk about. So, Sarah, honestly, thank you for being here with me today, honey. I know that we're both busy women, but we're making time. All is good.
Always.
Yes.
Always got time for this. I love these conversations. So yeah, thank you for having me.
No, you're very, very welcome, my darling. Me too. I love just chatting to people and hearing their their mindset. It's fascinating. So obviously with us both working for ProspHER, we kind of have to start there. So tell us, what's been your journey with ProspHER so far? How did you even get started with the company?
Oh, it's so interesting because I spotted ProspHER on LinkedIn, and I can't even remember when it was. It was probably after COVID-ish, around COVID-ish.
Right.
And I remember seeing Serena doing some posts, and I remember seeing you doing some posts, and I was like, I want in. So I basically messaged Serena and just said, I want in. Can I help? And basically it just kind of came from there. I remember saying to her, like, this is what I do. I love to promote women in business. I've been seeing you kind of going out there on LinkedIn, and I just loved everything that, I just loved everything about it, because it's all about empowering women. It's about empowering their stories, sharing their stories. And I think you were running your big event in, I want to say Norwich.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you'd just done the big festival around then. And I was just talking to Serena about that. And I remember I was working flexibly. I was in a cafe, and we were like, yeah, let's just chat. And I remember standing outside, like having a coffee with her, just complaining about having children and having to do everything around the children, and how we've got this real kind of drive, and we want to be seen, and we want to do all the things, but we have children and we have all the other stuff to contend with. And we were just like, well, we just hit it off, because because I think that's like the real talk was what really clinched it for me. Because like we were just saying before we came on, it's just, these things happen, life happens. And I think there's a part of us that we're taught to be good girls, and we're taught to play the game and be corporate, and there isn't room for mess. But what I love about us as a collective and the women that we work with is that we're here for the mess as well. It's like we're at the realness of being in business as a woman, because there's so many balls, plates, whatever analogy you want to use, we're trying to spin all the time. So
yeah, I love that. It's so true. And I think that feels to me like there is a shift in society happening, very, very slowly, glacial. But I do see it happening, is that we are seeing that there isn't just one way of doing business, and actually having a more feminine, nurturing approach of realness, of authenticity, of messiness is actually, that is the vulnerability that connects us, right? And so going into, I mean, you and I probably have had a gazillion interviews between us, and there's going into that kind of more corporate masculine energy, and playing that role of what you think you should be and how you should show up in a way that's expected of you. I always felt to be really disingenuous. I always kind of just wanted to ask them real questions, but it's almost like you're playing a part, you know?
You do. I think you go in and you mask. And
Yeah.
what's really, I mean, I've definitely worked through, I've done the work and putting in inverted commas there around like self-development around all of this.
Yeah.
And I've definitely been doing that as I've been serving ProspHER. And there was one particular story. And I mean, we talked about like, why did I get involved? Well, I wanted to run an event. I wanted to run an event in my local area. And I was all set. And I remember having calls with you and calls with Serena, and you know, do the PR and run an event.
Yeah.
I still want to do this, right?
Absolutely.
I think this might resonate with some people that are listening, but so 2 years ago I was all set. I had the venue booked. I was taking kind of the blueprint of the event, and I turned it into an evening kind of.
Yeah, I remember.
And I was all set. The venue was really, you know, it was great. It was a lovely venue. I had people interested in getting involved. I had people willing. I put stuff on Facebook, people willing to come. And for some reason or another, I just didn't fully believe that I could pull it off. And my it kind of coincided with my perimenopause journey. And I remember being in floods of tears, leaving a message to you and Serena saying, I just can't do it.
Yeah.
And I'd lost all confidence. You know, you guys were amazing. You were talking me up. There was some, you know, but sometimes, you know, I just had, for some reason, decided, my brain went, no, you can't do it.
Yeah.
And you're crap. You can't do it. You know, there's no way. Who would come to this? And, you know, and on paper, I was all sorted. I had it all figured out. I just had to like show up. But for some reason, I kind of retracted, hid, cut ties with loads of things. I think I even stepped out of ProspHER for a little bit because I didn't feel like I had the bandwidth. And then like for a year, I was kind of did that with everything. I mean, I look back at it now, and it was a little bit sabotage, really, to be honest. But it was because my mental health really took a nosedive, and it was hormonal. It was perimenopause. It was I just felt I didn't have the confidence to pull this thing off. And I think that's one thing that, again, I love about ProspHER is that there's all these girl bosses out there who are bossing it, and it's happening, and it's like, yeah, we're going to power on through. But actually, what happens when you get to a certain age, you kind of have to listen to what your body's telling you. And if you're getting oh, I can't do this, it's not fear. I think I just it was fear, but it wasn't fear. I kind of just needed to pay attention to what was going on. And after going to the doctors and getting all the HRT and kind of rebooting myself a little bit, I, you know, feel human again. I feel like it's possible again. Like I can do these things again. And it, you know, it's a mental thing. I had to really work on positive mental attitude. And like, even before this call, I was like, I've set an intention for this week, going to be great. And, you know, without whitewashing and, you know, all of that stuff. But I think that's what I love about this whole collective of women that I'm working with, yourself included, is that you all got on the phone, you all understood, you kind of were like, well, chill, it's like, it's okay. Yeah. When you work in a corporate environment, that support is not there. Yeah. And that's what I love about this, because it's not just for freelancers and women who have setting up their own businesses, it's corporates as well who want to learn and to be a different way in business. And that is everything. That is why I'm involved. There you go. That was a bit long-winded, but
no, it's beautiful. And I really love it, because I think that it's something that, again, we don't necessarily talk about. I know that I'm on my own perimenopause journey now. And it really does, people talk about the physical symptoms of that time, this time. No one really talks about your mental health. And it is the weirdest thing. Like, I've always been someone, like, I've been self-employed now since 2018. I've published books, I've done events, I've done speaking, and you can feel the imposter syndrome. You can feel the doubts. You can feel the sabotage. You can thinking things that, I struggled with my self-esteem for years and read a lot of work to turn things around. And yet this voice is like a different level. It's the weirdest thing. And no one really talks about it. And like you say, if you're going to work with women past a certain point in their life, I think this has to be part of the conversation.
Absolutely. I mean, I've got another little anecdote around a story that happened to me during that time. Like, so I've got girls, I've got two girls at 10 and we'd gone to the park, and I bought, why? Well, no, I know why. I bought myself a transporter, like camper van, as kind of, I got to the top of, I'd done really well in my business. And I was like, I've always wanted a camper van. I bought this camper van. And then the year that it all went a bit south, I was scared to drive. So I literally just, I went to this park, I drove in, and then I realized that I had this massive, bloody great big van. I was like, how the hell am I going to get out of this parking space? Someone's parked right behind me. And I was sitting there in tears going, I can't drive the van. Like, this is so embarrassing. The shame, all of the things came up. My eldest daughter, she jumped out. She went, Mummy, I'll back you up. So I'm like sobbing, managed to pull myself together, use all the things, breathe, all of that. And my daughter's there going like this, like directing traffic, directing me out. And I was like, do you know what? Like, and I'm the most confident driver in the world. I used to drive to London for my job. Like, it's like, it is a real, like, nobody tells you that it does that much of a number on you, but it really does.
It's crazy. I had a chat with my one of the nurses last week at the doctor's, and she said, everyone talks about estrogen and progesterone. No one really talks about testosterone for women, and it's the lack of testosterone that will affect your anxiety, and it will affect your calmness and your well-being. And it's that women, we don't need huge levels of testosterone, but we do need a little bit. Otherwise, we're all over the bloody place.
It's crazy, isn't it? But also, like, the fact that we're all in it together, and ProspHER does attract women of this age, and we're not just kind of caring for children who are hitting puberty at the same time as us going through menopause. We're also caring for our parents as well, who are moving through their own rite of passage. So it's all, it is a real, like, this is when we really need each other.
Yes, absolutely.
And I read somewhere, actually, it's on social media, so it must be true, but I read somewhere that apparently women, we need each other, because that's how we create dopamine and hormones. That's how that's why these communities are so very important.
Absolutely. And it's to reach out when you've got good news, when you've got something to celebrate, but also when things are difficult, when it doesn't have to even be something huge. It can just be a wobbly day. And to have people who just hold that space for you with love, and they listen, and they it's not even about fixing it. It's just about showing up and holding that space for you is invaluable. And honestly, whether it's one person or 10 people, it's the right people around you is worth their weight in gold. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I do what I do. Like, I've got the Shameless Stories podcast, which for me, it's not just a podcast, it's an opportunity to share stories like this in the hope that someone else might feel less alone.
Yeah, absolutely. So why did you choose that as your intention for the podcast specifically? Because there are loads and loads and loads of podcasts now. So why was it Shameless Stories in particular that really called to you?
Well, it's interesting because I was a radio presenter for Wellbeing Radio, and my radio show there was called Connecting the Dots, which was all about how to do PR in a more kind of feminine way. And that evolved into stories. because basically when people came on and they shared their story about how they had amplified what they were doing, which effectively is what PR is all about. It's all about amplifying something you're working on in a way that feels good and is aligned and to the right people. So Connecting the Dots was born back, it was around COVID. It was a really great way to get the message out there, but also connect with like-minded people. So that was based around my book, Connecting the Dots. And then I wrote a collaborative book called Wake Up Mother, which was around kind of the motherhood wound or the mother wounds that people experience, and how women inherently kind of have an element of this nurturing, mothering tendency within us, whether we have physical children or whether we have businesses we're birthing, whether we're the aunties, whether we're the space holder, whether we want a child, whether we choose not to have a child. There's always an element of mothering that goes on in every woman. And that's what that book was about, and the celebration around that. And that became a podcast, and that was amazing because we had 4 of us every time just talking about stuff that was coming up. So then I was like, okay, so I got to 2 years after my kind of perimenopause journey, my business kind of crashed a little bit because I let go of some stuff.
And
actually where I got to was, it was like I'm living from a place of shamelessness. So I feel like menopause or perimenopause is a real opportunity to just let go of stuff that doesn't serve. And shame is a massive part of our society, whether we like it or not. And for me, it was like, how do we live shamelessly? How do we walk around on this planet without shame, like keeping us small? Because I do believe shame is the thing that stops us in our tracks. You get really small, you know, it's one of those things. So, and I just thought, you know what, I'm going to shamelessly rock this perimenopause thing. I'm going to walk through it and I'm going to talk about it. And, you know, because I want to empower my own children. Like I want them to think it's okay to talk about periods and sex and hormones and things, you know. And, you know, I used to go for walks with my mum and talk about, you know, how it was for her. And, you know, yes, granted, there's like 20-30 years between us. But even so, like seeing how far we've come and then seeing how far my girls are going to come. Just think, you know, we're all taking small steps so that we will eventually, all of us, live without shame, hopefully one day.
That's the plan.
But I mean, the thing is, we all have chapters where, you know, we've made choices in the past, and I call it the sliding door moment. So my sliding door moment happened after I left corporate, and it was like there was shame around that story because I was doing something different to the norm. And then I think anything that you do that goes against the norm has an element of shame. That's what I'm loving. Kind of my little analytical brain likes to pull it apart and understand where it came from and how we, you know, why we have these stories and how to kind of unravel them. So yeah, that's long story short.
No, I say it's great, and I know, like I say, I've been a guest on there, and it's really nice to, in a weird way, because you would think, well, talking about your shame, how can that be nice, right? Because obviously it's shame. However, if there's something very healing and empowering about talking about it, you know, one of my big quotes in life is, when women own their stories, they release the shame that was never theirs to carry. And there is something really, like I say, healing and empowering about just talking about it, you know, because shame likes, it's secrecy, right? It likes to hide away. Yeah,
it does. And I mean, there was a woman who came on my podcast who was talking about, in Egypt, there are 2 goddesses. There is one that is about the kind of external, I can't remember the name, and you'll have to listen to the podcast, but then there's shame is like represented as like an alligator that just sits there, and when you look at it, it goes away. And that's the thing, is like so many of us are taught, like I see PR as, we're PRing ourselves every single day because we're constantly choosing to hide behind masks, stories, conditioning, whatever, like every single day. Like we all do our own PR every single day.
You
know, there's a version that presents itself to the world that we've kind of decided that morning, this is how I'm going to show up. And that's, I think, like, that's why I always talk about PR being so much more than just getting media coverage. It's about how we show up in the world. And the more we unravel the stories that we're carrying, the more we can truly be who we're supposed to be. And
yeah, I get it. Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, talking about the PR element of what you do. And I am looking at my own PR recently in my own business away from ProspHER, and I know that there's a real mental block around PR. I don't know, is that, and obviously the responding, there's more than one answer here, I suppose, but is that predominantly a female thing? Is that a British thing? Is it both? Why are we so reluctant to lean into our own PR?
Both.
Both.
Yeah. I mean, women, so taking the women bit first.
Yeah.
Oh no, actually it's the British thing first. We have been taught to be reserved. It's both, actually. Women and British women have been taught to be the good girl, be reserved, not, you know, not be loud, not be proud. You know, if you're seen to be talking about yourself in a positive way, that's crowing, or you know, like, why, you know, you too much. It's all the labels that we get given as a female. It's like we're told that you work within this space and you must not get out your box, kind of thing. When I think what I love about PR and how it differs so much from social media and marketing is PR is when somebody else is doing it for you. And actually that's how I got around it. Because with marketing just makes me go, I've got to talk about a positive way, I've got to sell my stuff, this is awful. And it's really, really uncomfortable for women because we're just not used to.
And it's especially British, because I've got a bit, excuse me, got some, do you want to buy? No? Okay, fine, sorry.
Yeah, so it costs this. Oh, you can't afford it. Oh, okay, so shall I do it for it's like, stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it is all of those things. And yeah, so with PR, when you can get somebody else to say your stuff is good, which is basically what I'd say PR is, that takes that charge away from it, because somebody else said, oh, Sarah's stuff's good, or Sarah's PR services are really great. And that then actually that's more of a door opening situation for that individual, because someone's already kind of done the hard work because they've already experienced your services. But then it's also a trust thing. So it's the know, like, trust. You're more likely to go to someone who's recommended you.
Absolutely. That's why places like Trust the Trader and all that come along, because we go on personal recommendations, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like, PR is positioning yourself as a thought leader in some respects. So being the first person to talk about this particular topic area. People will, you know, if it's a different opinion to those that are out there already, then that is going to be interesting. But then there's also this know, like, trust thing. So, you know, marketing as well, we will talk about that in a marketing where people need to see your message, where it used to be 7 times, but I think it's like 16 now, before they're willing to make a purchase. And that's exhausting for women in perimenopausal states. Like, why? I don't want to keep telling everybody about my stuff. So why not use PR? Because actually, if you can connect to make one phone call to one journalist who then writes a story about how great you are, and then that then goes out to the 30,000, 125,000 readers, that is worth it. One phone call, it's like, okay, and that's what my brain's like, yeah, I'm much better about that. Like, whether that's lazy, I don't know. It's better on my nervous system.
Absolutely. I get it completely. I mean, obviously there's still an element of putting yourself out there, and obviously then the flip side is rejection, because not every journalist is going to pick up your story or want to work with you. So there's still that. But I get what you're saying, because it really is, like you say, it is that external validation, really. It is that this person is great at what they do, let me feature them, let me highlight them. And it's so you don't have to show up in the same way. You're still showing up, it's a very different energy, isn't it? So
yeah, it's less pushy.
yeah.
I find like PR is less pushy. PR is a pushy modality in business anyway. You have to put, but this is the, like, if I coach someone on this, it's kind of like, if you don't put yourself out there, how are people going to know you exist?
Yeah.
And it's almost like, oh, when you say it like that, I probably should show up a little bit. And it's like, okay, well, that's great. But then there's this whole, but you've got to show up consistently.
That's the thing I was going to say. So either you try it and it doesn't work, and so you think, well, obviously you lose that momentum, so you stop, or you get a really successful PR moment and then you then don't continue showing up. A friend of mine who works in PR said it's the equivalent of being a door-to-door salesman and consistently knocking on doors. If you sold vacuum cleaners, you wouldn't knock on one door and then go, nobody's home, I'm going home. Or I saw the vacuum, I'm going home. You have to keep showing up, don't you? It's the consistency. And again, that's where the work is.
And, you know, and I also think there's an element of, when you're ready for your story to be shared, the opportunities will align really easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it becomes easy, it means it's supposed to happen. But I also, as well, like, but you still need to, it's like understanding that, yes, you need to put yourself out there, but you also just need to allow the seeds to percolate a little bit.
Yeah.
You have to keep showing up, and you know, but you can do it in a way that feels good. And like, when I say consistency, I think when people say consistency, it's like, I need to post 3 times a day, I need to show up every single day, and I'm going to burn out. It's like, no, you consistently set the intention that you're going to be visible.
Yeah.
That's telling people on the school run that you do PR, or telling people that you're doing this, like in passing. As long as you're consistently telling people about yourself and your business, that's being consistent.
Yeah.
That's kind of the myth, I think. It's like, no, it must show up and it must be done this way. No, do it when it feels right and feels good. Like, do it when your energy is in the right place.
Absolutely. I used to be like a real terrible for that. I got myself, when you work on your own, by yourself, for yourself, you can really be your own. You can either like just not put the effort in and bother, or you can be real slave driver to yourself. And it makes me laugh now. I used to set this thing for myself that I had to post on social media 5 times every single day. And I did. It's mad. I think about that now. Now it's more like typically 2 or 3. Because I have a very set routine.
Like 2 or 3 times a week.
No, because I do 2 things in the morning and then I might post on later on the day. Depends. But I don't have that same pressure on myself as I should. And I should, I always say shame. So, right?
Yeah, you did say like shoulding, if you should do something, then, it's not like, going back to that story I said about the event. It's like, I kept saying, I should, I must, I need to. And it's like, I'll let everybody down. I'll let Serena, I'll let Kate down. And it's like, no. When you both all said, like, you kind of gave me permission to step away.
Yeah.
We need women in our lives like that, because, and I'll always be that person for somebody else, because there might be a time when I'm feeling good and you're not. And it's one of those things, like, we're always here for each other when we need it.
I love that. So tell me, obviously the title of this whole podcast is Prospering. So what does prospering mean to you right now?
Prospering, showing up consistently.
Nice.
I guess, yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, what does prospering mean? It is showing up consistently. It is.
Is that for yourself as well? I would think, because when we say show up, it normally means other people, but actually you have to make sure you're showing up for yourself as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, I did a coaching session this morning, and I was just saying, and everything I was saying to her, I was like, yes, I must do that myself.
Yeah, I love it when that happens. I do that, and you're just like, you can hear something in your brain going, pay attention to what you're saying, and you're like,
I think I'm saying this for both of us. However, but it is like, it's being consistent. It's treating my business like it's so working in PR, we have clients.
Yeah.
And it's also easy, it's all too easy to focus on the client work and then forget about the business that you're actually operating from. So, you know, prospering is ensuring that my business gets as much love and attention as my clients.
Love that. I love that.
But also, like, so Lynn Franks, who's like the guru of PR, she's the character Eddie is based on in Ab. So she's my mentor and friend. And the first time I went into a mentoring container, she was saying, you know, you need to work on the rule of 3. I was like, okay. And she told me it, but I've taken what she said and interpreted it in my own way. And basically she said, you need life, working for yourself is a balance. You need a client that's going to pay your mortgage. You need to make room for what you enjoy doing, and you need to ensure that you're kind of making sure that you're having time for your family and your friends. So it's almost, you know, but in the middle of all that, you know, you are the consistent. So look after yourself first, then make sure you have time in your family, and then make sure you have time in your business. So that was my 3. And then I took it another level, and it's like, okay, so in my business, I need to have clients that are going to pay the mortgage, clients that I enjoy working on, and sort of something else.
Yeah.
But the way it's all worked out is all my clients I enjoy working on, which is good and a good place to be. And it is possible.
Absolutely.
And that's basically what's happened this last year, where everything fell away. It's like, I know what I enjoy doing. I know who I want to work for, and I know the types of businesses I want to support. And like, touch wood, that's what's happening. You know, that's, I know what doesn't work for me, and I'm just going to focus on what does.
Love that. I love that. So last question. I like to leave all of my interviewees with a kind of more off the wall kind of question. And I was literally grocery shopping this morning, and I was walking around the supermarket going, what am I going to ask Sarah? And it came to me, and I kind of like, oh yeah, that's a good question. If you had to be, like, you didn't have a choice, you had to be on a desert island by yourself, what are the 3 things you would take with you? I'm giving you a choice of 3. Normally people say 1. I'm going to give you 3. What 3 things would you take with you on a desert island if you had to go?
If I had to go on a desert island, well, a water bottle. Okay, so this is the Virgo talking. So water bottle, a knife, and probably a book, a notepad with a pen. There's that one thing. I don't know.
The books, don't you? So it's a book at the front and a kind of a journal at the back. So maybe that would work.
I would take something I could record stuff in, because I want to be able to be creative in some way.
I love that. So you've got the practicality with the water, you've got the knife for obviously the defense, but also food and, you know, getting shelter and all that. And then you've got the creativity, self-care. So it sounds to me like that is you prospering even when you're on your own.
Even on a desert island.
Even on a desert island.
No, I mean, I was torn between shoes actually, but you know.
Was it when Joanna Lumley years ago went and did My Girl Friday? Didn't she make shoes out of her bra, if I remember rightly?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, there's always, well, you got to, like, it's the creativity, right? You've got to kind of adapt and think outside that box. So, you know, there's always a way.
I think, a bottle, definitely.
I love that. I love that. Thank you.
Business, but.
So Sarah, if people want to work with you with your own business and with the PR stuff, and obviously find out more about what you do, where can we find you?
Oh yeah, so I have a website. I am www.iamsarahlloyd.com. You can find me on Instagram. That's mainly where I'm at. I'm on Facebook as well. But yeah, I am sarahllloyd.com.
Go check her out, because she is awesome. And you know, and I'm not just saying that, honestly, she is awesome at what she does. So go check her out if you kind of spark something in you and you want to find out more. So Sarah, thank you so much, my darling, for talking to me. I really appreciate it. As ever, a really good conversation. So thank you ever so much.
Amazing. Thanks, love. Take care.
Thank you, guys, and thanks for watching this podcast, and I will see you again for another fabulous prospering podcast. Take care. Bye.